According to one UN report, the number of people uprooted from their homes by war and persecution in recent years is larger than at any time since detailed record-keeping began. A focal point of the humanitarian crisis is the impact of the civil war in Syria. A recent Wilson Center event conducted in cooperation with Smithsonian Media and Independent Diplomat featured a panel that included Syrian refugees providing thoughts on the crisis and on possible solutions. Their discussion provides the focus for this edition of Rewind.
The Wilson Center has had a long commitment to looking at issues of migration and refugees. The crisis in Syria and what is going on in the Middle East generally right now has drawn all of our attention, of course. And it is something that is of concern around the world, not just because it is a sensitive region, but because the crisis has been so deep. People have gone out throughout the world. We've seen a true refugee crisis that has called to the conscience of people around the world.
As Andrew mentioned, the Wilson Center and the Smithsonian Institution have been intertwined since the beginning. In fact, the Wilson Center, once housed in the Smithsonian Castle, has been a wonderful extension, and a refreshing energy has been brought forth as we renew our relationships.
The Syrian Voices are absolutely key to solving the Syrian crisis and moving forward beyond the crisis. And I think up until now there hasn't been enough Syrian input into both the solutions for the overall crisis and the consequences such as refugee flows and indeed other global consequences as a result of the crisis. So it's very important, I think, to listen to Syrian Voices and to take them seriously and to use the specific options that they put forward in policy proposals that are used to address the crisis. And refugee flows aren't happening in isolation of the wider crisis. There are root causes. There's a reason why people are running, and it's that they're being bombed day in, day out, killed, and are facing the most awful crisis, I think, of our generation. And so we need a discussion about how to solve the root causes. I believe, as a former policymaker for the British government, there are options for at least ending the killing, and the notion that there aren't feasible options is not just wrong. I think at times it's been a lie that's been propagated by some leaders and some administrations. There will be no solution unless there's real global leadership. And at the moment, I think we're failing on that front. It's great that the Obama administration is talking about taking more refugees, but at the end of the day, you still have to deal with the root causes, and that's where the leadership has failed.
So a solution that works, it's a solution that gives people hope, to show them it's serious. And what lacks, the agreement, what it really lacks now, that it doesn't give Syrians hope. If you have contacts in Syria and you talk to them and you ask them about their opinion on the agreement, the Russian-American agreement, and for them, it doesn't give them hope because they don't feel it's serious. They don't see what the consequences would be for those who violate the agreement. I think the agreement, it should include the dealing with the root cause. It should include local and regional voices, not only the international ones, and it should show everyone in the region that the international players are serious about this agreement, that there will be consequences for those who violate it.
None of these refugees want to be in refugee camps. None of them want to be in boats going to Europe. None of them want to be in the US or anywhere else. This is not their American dream. They want to be home. And if there is nothing done to stop what is causing them to leave, then this is the main obstacle that we are facing. It's not a funding issue. It's not an issue of an immature civil society not knowing how to handle that. No, there is a political cause to that. You cannot register your newborn baby in Lebanon. If you are a Syrian and you have a newborn baby, he will be an identityless person. If you are a child, 2/3 of children in Lebanon are not able to go to schooling. If you are a woman, you are facing gender-based violence because your husband is sitting idle and no one is working with the men. They are not allowed to work. They don't have residencies in Lebanon. The London Conference has had promises that it will be allowing working permits to Syrian refugees, but we did not see any of that materialize. 65% of the youth in refugee camps have thought about suicide because they don't see any future.
From your perspective, tell us a little bit about what is it that the UN has done well and what is it the UN has failed at? What is it that you would think the UN should do from now on, both in terms of the current refugee crisis and also the double refugee crisis that Rubai alluded to with respect to the Palestinians?
UNHCR and UNRWA, to be very frank and just to say it in one line, need to formalize their collaboration, need to look into the needs of the Palestinians of Syria, not only as people who need food packages. We do not need food packages. What we need, what I needed when I fled from Syria to Lebanon on the 28th of October 2013, is the guarantee that if I am stopped in the streets of Beirut for having no papers, I wouldn't be deported back to Syria. What we want is to know that our limbo will end at some point, that the interagency committee will take the lead and lead a cluster of NGOs and UN agencies to put in place a change that we are really looking forward. That is only if we want really to sustain peace in the Middle East.
Maybe it will be when we understand that there is a revolution of justice in Syria. Because even my colleagues who are suffering from chemical attacks, incendiary arms, siege, they are always talking about revolution. They still have hope. And what we are doing every day, the international community is still participate in killing that hope. And it is why lots of Syrians flee today, because they are feeling that they have no hope.
For more on this and related topics, visit wilsoncenter.org. Click the Research tab and search under the Middle East program.